Hi, Claudia, and thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, I want to ask you one thing. First of all, talents. It is said that in the energy sector, it is really hard to find good talents, young people that are willing to work for, let's say, energy companies. Although young people are very, very interested in climate change, in saving the environment, etc. Can you tell me why this is happening and how we can tackle it?
Yeah, sure. Now, first of all, I think the talent challenge is all over. So it's in many industries. What is important, there are certain business areas that it's more difficult to find talent, which first of all is the technical part of the business, engineering part. Those are the bigger challenges, and I think those jobs are very important for the transition. The other side of the talent issue is perception of companies. So how is a company perceived by the young people? What is the image that they have of the company? And I think that is what companies need to realize, because in the end, I do think young people are very interested to work towards the future and to participate in that future. So they'd like to be part of the energy transition, of sustainability, circularity. So I think, it's a matter of perception.
Yeah, perhaps they don't even know that companies that perhaps they consider dinosaurs or fossil fuel, let's say, advocates, are actually actively trying now to change not their image but their line of work. It is not greenwash; it is something that is actually happening, like Shell or BP. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
No, it's definitely correct. I mean, Shell is building the biggest electrolyzer in Europe, and that's a project because it's the first electrolyzer to this extent. So it gets a lot of attention, gets a lot of international attention. So that draws people to that idea. So that's clear. However, at the same time, Shell is doing a lot more, which is maybe not so visible. So then stands out the name Shell, and people immediately think, oh yeah, oil and gas, I don't want to participate in that company. And I think that's an issue.
It is an issue, but to be honest, it is also fed by some of the mistakes of the past. Like, I'm sorry, but I need here to mention when we talk about BP that is now actively trying to become greener, I can't help but think of the Gulf of Mexico and what happened there with the spoil of oil.
Yeah.
So how do we tackle that? This is not easy. This is in our collective, let's say, consciousness. Shell, BP, they're, let's say, the devils, even though they shouldn't be.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's all of us that needed that oil to be out there, because it was the provider of all the energy that was needed around the world. It's also only quite recent that we, as people living in this world, understand that we cannot continue in the way we were in the past. So I think it's a two-way street. We've got to understand that the only way the energy and the energy transition is going to be moved forward is if we've got those bigger companies that, yes, for sure, made their money in the oil industry, in the gas industry. With that money, they're going to achieve some of the goals that this transition has for us.
Let's hope so, because because this is actually needed. Because to be honest, the small producers, the prosumers, they are helping a lot the energy transition. But unless the big players, and those are the big players, whether we like it or not, unless they get in the game, and they are in the game, then we won't go any further. So it is a question of image, like you said, for these companies, but it's also a question of fun. I will explain what I mean. I have discussed with many students or young engineers or young, computer scientists, and they say that companies like Microsoft or Google, for example, are more fun than the old dinosaurs, the DSOs, TSOs in Europe, which is also not true, and it's a thing of image. Won't you agree?
Yeah, but the image is, of the, the way that the offices look at, or, have got the image that they're like. At the same time, the other side of that business is that also in this country, which, we're not a big country. So, and they see like the big black boxes in the environment. And those big black boxes or logistics centers or warehouses are there because of the Amazons and the Googles. And I think that's also something that, that's being realized now by people that live in this country.
Absolutely. And another way to attract talent is innovation.
For
right?
sure, yeah.
What would you say? Which are the points that we need to focus on the subject of innovation?
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot of very exciting innovations. I think we've got so many clever people around the world. In this country, with the Technical University in Delft, for instance, a lot of initiatives are starting there. And then those innovations need to be able to scale up. So of course, a lot of funding is needed, like we mentioned today before, space is needed, and then again, people that will move it forward.
And where does the funding come from? From the private sector alone, or is let's say, the Dutch government, or even more the European Commission involved?
I think all of those are very relevant. I think the corporates and the private companies are very relevant because they can assist with their experience with business itself, and they also are able to fund innovations because, if they can bind those innovations to their own business, I think again it's a two-way street and both will be successful. At the same time, I believe that innovations cannot go without European, national or local funding. So it's again a way of how do we bring that funding to the right place.
For my last question, I would like you to picture that you have in front of you a young female engineer. How would you convince her to come and work for the energy sector, for Shell, for BP, for Stedin, for example?
Yeah, well, I'm here to also promote Rotterdam, so I will base it on the Rotterdam situation. And Rotterdam having the biggest port in Europe, and yes, we've got one of the biggest chemical clusters and petrochemical clusters in Europe. At the same time, that's also where the opportunities are. So if there's any place in the world where you want to be a direct participant of the whole energy transition, want to play a role in that, that's where you need to be. Because once we here in Rotterdam, with our port, are able to solve some of the challenges, these will go international because everyone is looking for solutions. And this whole city is aware of the fact how much we as a city and as a port contribute to the national CO2 emissions. So that means that any solution or any reduction that we can bring in this city and port will have an immediate effect on the national emissions. And I think that by itself really attracts people. And I'm a big supporter of more female in the engineering, so that will be my first step. I would like to enter the schools with the very young children and very young female and girls to convince them, you need to be in this line of work.
Excellent. And let's just say that for all the young people out there, Rotterdam is the place to be, to experience the energy transition and to help save our planet, maybe with climate change.
I can only confirm that. And as I keep telling people, we've got a city slogan, and the city slogan is "Make it happen." So any young person coming here, we will make it happen.
Excellent. Make it happen. We will close on this note. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.